Indeed, it is my privilege, and also I count it as blessings to be part of this special occasion when students of Theological Seminary are graduating. I also take this time to thank my colleagues who have been a source of blessings and support in past 1 year, particularly when most of us have worked hard to produce a review of curriculum revision for BD studies. So the students who are continuing may be blessed by the curriculum revision. I know how much the students have grumbled about the courses, including the graduating students. I can see a broad smile that have completed 5 years of torturous studies. Well, for my convocation address, I have titled my theme as Religion, Spirituality and Spiritual Freedom. In a new geographical divide, religious institutions and communities are facing unprecedented challenges from every quarter. While institutions suffer from integrity, the masses are torn apart between religious fundamentalism, often masked with violence, and religious liberalism, which overtly compromising with conviction, ideals, and ideologies. These two extremes are the inherent fallacy of contemporary religiosity. As theological literate, particularly my dear students, we are called to strike the balance. Theological training is meant to address the issues of religiosity and spirituality in the context appropriating the needs and challenges. We are not to walk tightrope between the two, remain in the state of compromise. When spirituality is thought to be the best solution for human problem and world's crisis, and deterrent to equality and bring healings to human community, it has also become an instrument of violence, hatred, and discriminatory. What then is the relevance of religion to the masses? The world is still not free from political bondage in spite of the aggressive Western intervention and imposition of what is known today the civility and Western values as alternative. Indian values and ethos have also remained essentially discriminatory, casteist and gendering. The religious masses still suffer from religious discrimination and exploitation in spite of the fact that gospel is preached more than ever before. Religion over a period of time has moved to public places. Instead of bringing peace and tranquility, it has become the victim in the hands of the political class for manipulation, acquired militant characteristics in the hands of religious fanatics and terrorists, and subjugated in the hands of religious leaders. Also used religion for their own self-interest. Where does the fault line lies? The difference in today's religiosity is that it is in the know of solution, yet it does not have the moral conviction and authority to overcome the impediments of inequality and injustices. The time has come that we need to assess our religious institutions and practices. Who can do better than the young budding students of theology who are soon going to enter into the protected boundaries of the church? There is another pertinent question: how spiritual is our religious institution? I am aware that I may be confronted to define spirituality. I hesitate to define spirituality for the simple reason that I may reduce the spirituality to a dominant notions and categories. It is best left to the people to take care. It is best left to the people to take cue from the collective spirituality and profess it. For example, for a religiously plural society, secularism is believed to be the best alternative, and it must help promote inclusive spirituality, where we not only appreciate the spirituality of our fellow brothers and sisters of other denominations or Christian traditions, but also the spirituality of our neighboring faiths. The fundamental question that needs to be addressed is, what is the place of religion in a democratic and secular state such as ours? Does religious pluralism promote inclusive spirituality and strengthen Christian faith? Whatever may be the level of maturity of a theological student, one thing that a young priest will discern is the spirituality is becoming more complex, not because of the impact of secularism or secularization, rather the backward movement to reclaim and reinterpret spirituality or fanaticism in the absence of historical antecedent. Religious fundamentalism is more assertive than ever before. Therefore, under the garb of secularism, minority fundamentalisms have also raised their heads and becoming much more intolerant to other faiths, culture and society. Secularism is abused to meet the parochial goals. There is no doubt that today the nation states are shaped by power, wealth, economy, but it is also true that culture, religion and language sustain the inclusive and pluralistic nature of the state. The states are trying to articulate their own preferences based on cultural and religious differences. Such preferences are based on cultural and religious differences. Some states even use culture and language to resist economic development and prosperity. The great jurist Nana Palkiwala once said, "The world is witnessing today two basic splits, one vertical, the other horizontal. The vertical is between the east and the west, the horizontal between the north and the south. East and west conflict is between tyranny and freedom, just as the north-south confrontation is between affluency and poverty. The solution at first would to release the resources necessary to pave the way for the second." The so-called civilized society is becoming extremely and exclusively monocultural, responding monotonously and unilaterally to the religious modes and molds of the West. The ideals of pluralism for which East was known has remained only an academic discourse and theoretical framework meant to be discussed only in an intellectual environment. Nevertheless, the humanity belongs to communities that are based on cultural, religious and social pluralism. When communities are divested from their basic tenets of spiritualism or pluralism, it is bound to manifest in religious fundamentalism. V.S. Naipaul's euphoria of universal civilization is an eclectic byproduct of Orientalism. He talks about coming together of humanity on shared commonalities of values, beliefs, orientations, manners, practices, behaviors and institutions. But what is critical often in such a society is that it lacks a sense of belongingness that holds key to unity. The recognition of the other is the only antidote to any forms of religious expression, cultural and social fundamentalism. If one enjoys freedom in a nation when there is no presence of the other, it is not a real freedom, but it may be called a monodome. A nation's pluralistic credentials can only be measured when the other is present and treated equally with all. Often we make ideological differences in the absence of religious differences. For example, the Protestant and Catholics in Ireland, Shias and Sunnis in Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, Catholics and Orthodox in Russia. Such kind of exclusive mono-religious expression also equally prejudices to religious health of any nation. Religion strengthens kinship going beyond race and ethnicity in today's world. For example, Indian Christians may consider themselves as one with the Christians belonging to other nations. Western Christianity may feel more at home with Christians of non-Christian world than the Hindus, Muslims and Buddhists who live next door. It is true that in India, Hindus and Muslims and Christians have come from the same racial stock, but it does not guarantee communal amity and sense of oneness. Also, when religion identifies exclusively on racial and ethnic line, the ones who belong to other religious groups are perceived as a threat to oneself or to other groups. Therefore, in the question of identity, one must remove consciously synonym representations such as Indians, all are Hindus, all are Christians, Western, Islam, Arabs. It augurs dangers to the unity and integrity of the pluralistic society. There is another danger. Making religion private promotes individualism. Religious individualism is antithesis to pluralism. There is nothing as private religion. In a democratic society, all must respect everyone's religious rights. When religion is overemphasized as a matter of individualism, we find growing tensions between individuals within a group and also tensions between groups. The question is, who controls religion and religious life? Today, religion is not downgraded for the empowerment of the masses. Rather, it is retained and defined by religious leaders such as priests. Is there a democratic structure that is inclusive? The spurt of religious violence and fundamentalism emanates from individualism or individuals who do not tolerate the others. Spirituality today is emphasized more in the context and in the centrality of the church. Religion is so institutionalized that it loves to practice within the walls of the churches, temples and mosques. The temple coffers increase their revenue. Church becomes rich and serves the interest of the rich and affluent. Globalization, capitalism and market serves only people who are exclusive. The question is church shying away in promoting inclusivism and pluralism because of the growing pressure from spiritual marketeers? Spirituality is today sold as a market commodity. People are prescribed easy solutions and healings. Spirituality today has become an element of magic and superstition. Most of the major religions are in a way of going through a surge of revivalism by which spirituality is defined as individualism. George Weigel is of the opinion that secularization of the world is one of the dominant social facts in the late 20th century. When a democratic state fails to translate the values of secularism, it is bound to have cascading effect of people turning to fundamentalism. Samuel Huntington therefore observes, more broadly, I quote, the religious resurgence throughout the world is a reaction against secularism, moral relativism and self-indulgence, and an affirmation of the values of order, discipline, work, mutual help and human solidarity. Religious groups meet social need left untended by state bureaucracies. These include the provision of medical and hospital services, kindergartens and schools, care of the elderly, prompt relief after natural and other catastrophes, and welfare and social support during periods of economic deprivation. The breakdown of order and of civil society creates vacuums which are filled by religious, often fundamentalist groups. When state fails, fundamentalism rises to the occasions. Let us not forget the fact that identity is predominantly a religious issue in today's world, and its definitions are dominated by religious concerns, and other considerations are pushed to the periphery of margins. For example, if two groups of same race have the differences of opinion, it is most often on issues of religion. It is easy for a race to be religiously one with another race, yet develop hatred towards own race because he or she happens to be from another religion. This is a fault line wars in which a local is against another local with wider connections by promoting exclusive identity. Religious exclusivism works on the principles of us against them. It is a hate dynamic based on mutual fears, distrust, and hatred. If a culture, Michael Walzer says, has argued, if the culture is thick, they prescribe institutions and patterns of behavior to guide humans in the path which are right in a particular society, above, beyond, and growing out of this maximalist morality. However, is a thin minimalist morality that embodies, reiterates features of particular thick or maximalism. Minimal moral concept of truth and justice are found in all thick moralities and cannot be diverse from them. There are also minimal moral negative injunctions, most likely rules against murder, deceit and torture and oppression and tyranny. What people have in common is more the sense of a common enemy than the commitment to common culture. Human society is universal because it is human, particular because it is a society. At times we march with other, mostly we march alone. If culture is thick, religion is thicker. Religion and religious people try to work alone. They become minimalist, bringing rules, injunctions, do's and don'ts to the level where they infringe into the private of humanity. Ramila Thakur puts the whole question of Hindu identity as a construct which was done in the second millennium in order to curb the identity of the people. While democracy and secularism are theoretical constructs, democratization and secularization are the process of empowerment for political and religious rights. Similarly, religion is a construct, but spirituality is the process of empowering the masses. In religion, the faith of the people and the religious experience, when moved downward, the empowerment begins. Religion goes beyond a system to a process, from a form of institution to a way of life. Spirituality alone will take religion to survive, not the institution nor the structures. Therefore, people are important and their faith participation constitute religious structures. Wilfred Cantwell Smith says, if the religion has survived, it is not because of the institutions of doctrines and rituals, rather people's expression of faith and practices. If there is any cure for the ailment of religion, it is the spirituality. If religion is moving in opposite direction of fundamentalism, it needs to be corrected by empowering people and not holding spirituality by centralizing it. Let us broaden the scope of spirituality, eliminate the system of centralization, strengthen the power of the masses by reducing the power of the so-called elite of the churches, empower people more and more in more ways. This means nobody should be denied of their spiritual freedom, including of the Dalits, Adivasis, women and children. Downgrading spirituality is meant to reach out to the downtrodden people. The limitation of spirituality is not when spirituality is confined or held hostage to fanaticism. The danger that we face today is that a significant number of people claim to represent the majority when they represent a very minor spiritual worldview called fanaticism. It is communalistic. Communal hatred and religious fanaticisms are grown at the cost of national unity and integrity. That is why Noam Chomsky says there is a need of conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions. It is the job of the intelligent minorities. Dear students, you as leaders of the churches can shape spirituality for the people, putting religious teachings in right perspective. The task is to protect the vision of spirituality. While there is a need to preserve the fundamentals of religions, namely scripture, belief systems, spiritual traditions, at the same time we need to build up what I call inbuilt democratization or downgrading of spirituality so that it can move towards the masses. Empowering the masses with spirituality is important, but at the same time it has to be diverse and plural in composition. The church cannot become the church of one people. I am glad that Mahatma Church is a mission church. Inequality based on caste and gender are the roots of all evils in India. Religion may create institution of equality, but unless it practices equality, it becomes mere rhetoric. Spirit of spirituality is tied up to rigidity of rituals, traditions and constitution. There is no space for freedom of expressing alternative spirituality. Religion may flourish, but spirituality may go down. Spirituality leads to strengthening religion, and it is not the other way around. The increased religious activities at best may serve as deterrent to religious institution, but it may not provide freedom of professing one's own faith. At the same time, freedom is not always a freedom to choose, but freedom to discern what is right and what is good for all. Religion functions when all its institutions are downgraded to empower the masses. Fundamentalism is historically the weapon of the weak. Those who do not possess power or are powerless in a religious institution, they compensate with intolerant spirituality. Since one cannot fight the power of the day, it seeks to take the recourse by removing the context of the text in the scripture and interprets intolerantly. The weapon of intolerance is nothing but making Bible victim in the hands of fanaticism. The aggressive assertion of authority of the scripture and church is as dangerous as political autocracy and dictatorial state. Empowering the masses may have some flaws when implemented. Nevertheless, it should not be set aside for fears of such flaws. It is only when empowerment is put to test, it rises and becomes mature over a period of time. Empowerment must take place at all levels. It must take place institutionally as well as locally at the congregation levels. Interfaith harmony and consciousness of the essential unity of all religions is the very heart of our nation. Therefore, one might say at the end that there is still hope in our nation. In the process of democratization and institution of secularization, religion becomes more secular, more democratic, where individuals and masses enjoy the freedom of spirituality. As long as we locate religion within the framework of above elements, it is possible to create a new religious order where all can live in peace, harmony, and tolerance.